me where to go. All right. So I'm joined here with the police commissioner, the deputy chiefs. I know that the Councilman Anthony Moranti is here. Councilman John Muvo is with us. We have County Legislator Jimmy Nolan who's with me. And we're all here today to join the Yonkers Police Department, Chris Sapienza, like I said, and our PD's brass, as well as some of Yonkers' top retailers, representatives from the Urban Edge properties, the owners of Gateway Center, Nadine Shore, manager of Walgreens on Nepehan Avenue. This is an important time for us to be here having this discussion. As we're gathered today because many of you have been seen or heard, whether it be the reporting on social media, that shoplifting is on the rise in New York State. Actually, it's on the rise nationwide, and our city is not immune from it. Criminals are so brazen about it that they are seen carting out duffel bags worth of items from not just our corner store, from our big box stores, doing it openly, doing it aggressively, and many of the shopping centers right here along Central Avenue. In Yonkers, our police department prides itself in curbing crime and using precision policing. To decrease crime, especially over the last 10 years, we've seen a nearly 50% decrease in crime in the streets of Yonkers. But we also have been, and we are, as you know, recognized as one of the safest cities of our size in all of America. But unfortunately, there is a pattern of crime in the last 3 years that is consistently rising, and that is of property crimes. So we've seen a 10% increase in property crimes from 2021, 22, and from December of 2022 to February 2023, that number, there has been a staggering 162 reported shoplifting incidents here in the city of Yonkers, and that is something that is unseen, unheard of in our town. And many more incidents, as we all know, and as we're all becoming aware, are not being reported by local retailers. That complicates things, and certainly something that we have to deal with. You know, we have to take, because I know many of you will ask the question about bail reform, and many of you maybe even ask the question about some of the other areas, and we'll certainly answer all those questions. We here in Yonkers don't make the laws, but we here in Yonkers what we have to do is take the tools that we have at our disposal and use them in order to serve and protect the community. Our police department, mainly. We're going to make sure that we protect and serve the residents of our city, that they feel safe in our community. But you know what? We want to serve and protect the retailers. A major part of our budget is our retail budget. Major part of our budget. And if people don't feel safe enough to come into Yonkers to shop, then you know what? Then they'll stop coming. If they stop coming, then our revenues will go down. If people are allowed to walk into a store and take up to $1,000 worth of merchandise, you know what happens, guys? Those retailers, these stores, become unprofitable. And we are talking every single day to retailers about coming into urban centers and being a part of our community. And when they pick up and leave, what are we going to say when they don't come into communities of color anymore? When they say, well, it's just not profitable to be there, so we're not going to come. Well, that is just not going to happen here in Yonkers. We have a police department, and I'm going to let you listen to Police Commissioner Sapienza, and he's going to outline for you what we are doing to curb this. Because we're not going to sit back. We're not going to play woe is me. We're not going to blame somebody up north for what's happening. What we're going to do is do what we need to do to safeguard this community and to safeguard these retail businesses. That's how we're going to deal with this problem. And so with that, I'm going to ask that the police commissioner come up, kind of give us an outline of what we're doing and how we're doing it. And then, of course, we'll be open for questions. Police Commissioner Sapienza.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. At the direction of the mayor, we've instituted a lot of measures to deal with this issue. First and foremost, we've instituted directed patrols for major box stores. So what is a directed patrol? A directed patrol means, aside from regular patrol duties, each precinct will give an assignment to the officers going out for that particular tour, and they'll say, all right, specifically, we want you to pay extra attention to these stores. We want you to pay extra attention to these parking lots. So that gets us to where we need to be, where the crime is occurring. Pattern Crimes Unit. The Pattern Crimes Unit is being deployed in plainclothes capacity and are posted in major retail parking lots to intercept offenders. So what does that look like? Now we have our pattern crimes cops, plainclothes, sitting in these parking lots, ready to go. When we get a call from a store, we get a call from Marshals or any of these other retailers that someone is shoplifting, in real time, we have someone already in the parking lot. So that means no response time. It means we're there, we're watching who's going into the store, we're watching to see who leaves the store, and we're apprehending them immediately. And we've seen great results in doing this. We've made many arrests in the past few weeks by using this tactic. Crime control strategies. So we don't do anything by accident. This is precision policing. We're very deliberate in what we do. So we look for patterns. We look for patterns in the community. We look for patterns in spikes in crimes, and we address them. We talked about them. We have meetings about them, and we come up with solutions. So this is something that's actively being worked on. It's not something that we just go out there and drive around in police cars and look for crime. The Neighborhood Stabilization Team is deployed for disruptive enforcement, park and walks in high visibility areas, and they're staggered so they don't overlap with the Pattern Crimes Unit. So what does that mean? So the Neighborhood Stabilization Team is a great tool. What they do, basically the Neighborhood Stabilization Team is comprised of about 8 or 9 officers in uniform. And originally we started with this idea that these officers would be fresh out of the academy, and they'd be out there in the community for the community to see them and for them to interact with the community in such a way where they get comfortable and they know the businesses and they know the people. So this team, when deployed in this capacity, they'll just be out in a parking lot. They'll be out in this parking lot. Imagine 9 additional officers, in addition to what we have out on a normal patrol. Imagine just 9 officers walking around, greeting the public, and just being out there. And that's a very big deterrent, and it's high visibility, which we want. The precinct commanders have been meeting with businesses and retailers and offer guidance for target hardening, crime prevention, awareness, and to ensure cooperation with reporting and prosecution. We partner with the businesses. You know, sometimes the trend is for a business not to report crimes, to say, hey, you know, we'll just give this to the insurance company, we'll just deal with the loss. And we don't want to do that. We want to work with them and say, no, it's important for us to know where this crime is occurring, what we're doing about it, and help them with these arrests and prosecution, and work with them as partners. And since we've been doing that, we've had more reports. So yeah, there is a small spike in crime because we know about more of the crime. But at the same time, we're dealing with all of it. And we're dealing in real numbers, and we know what we're facing. The Crime Control Strategy Unit has been working closely with the Westchester County District Attorney's Office for case enhancement and heightened prosecution. So, I mean, like the mayor talked about, there's some things that are beyond our control and there's some things within our control. Recidivism is always a problem. So one thing we do when we have a repeat offender, to the best of our ability and with the rules we've been given, we try to talk to the district attorney and say, hey, this person has committed this many crimes in this amount of time. They're a problem to the community. What can we do to keep this person in jail? What can we do to enhance this prosecution? And that dialogue with the district attorney's office has been working also, and we're trying to keep people in jail where they belong when it's appropriate. The communications division has elevated the priority level of calls for service regarding shoplifting in progress to expedite police response. So when you call for the police, our radio room codes it based on priority. It's kind of like a triage. The most serious things would be a code 1, like a shooting or violence. And then you have things that we would code a 2 or a 3. By raising the priority of shoplifting, it's a little bit of a drain on our resources. We only have a finite number of police officers. But right now, when there is a problem that we're acknowledging, it gives us the opportunity to get cops here quickly. And that little difference, just by coding it a little bit differently, has a drastic impact on response times. Citywide deployment. So much like the NST that I outlined before, we'll actually deploy officers to areas where they're needed. And again, that's based on need. When we deploy based on need, it's efficient use of policing resources and taxpayer dollars, and that's what we try to do at all times. Our field intelligence officers follow up on uncleared incidents and focus on suspected recidivists. So again, policing isn't by accident. When we arrest somebody, one of the things that we do, our field intelligence officers will actually interview those people and debrief them. Hey, how did you get here? Are you from the area? What was your intention? Have you done this before? And then they look at patterns as well. Where does this seem to be happening? Where are the spikes? Are there other factors involved? And by just taking the time to try to get some of these answers, we end up getting more information and more intelligence so we could better combat this. So it is important to note that we've had more shoplifters this month than in the previous 5 years. That's an important number. And again, violent crime is down. We've made this a very safe city to live in. But now this property crime is creeping up, and we're trying to deal with it as best we can. We don't want those numbers to get out of control. Our priority, of course, is always going to be to violent crime, to deal with violent crime, but it's something we can't ignore. Some other interesting information, 65% of the bad actors here, of our criminals, are from out of this jurisdiction. They're not Yonkers residents, and that's something else we focus on. And we've made 62 arrests since January. That's a pretty big number. Since January of this year, we've made 62 shoplifting arrests. So, you know, again, that's showing you that all these things that we're employing is actually having some sort of effect in terms of making arrests. But, you know, like I outlined before, it is a big drain on our resources. We are putting a lot of work, a lot of time, and a lot of money into shoplifters, and we need help, because we want to make sure that we free up these resources to fight violent crime and do the other things that we have to do and deal with quality of life issues.
Thanks, Commissioner. And that's just kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what is happening. You know, Yonkers has employed its ComStat program for quite a few years. It's been very successful for us. It's led to the drop in crime in our city. That's why we've seen violent crime drop across the board in the City of Yonkers over the past 10 years. But we have to remember that if we allow this property crimes to go unchecked, the potential for this to lead into more violent crimes is very real, and it's happening. It hasn't happened as much here, but it has happened. I know you've reported these things in the city. People maybe take matters into their own hands, where people show a bit of frustration, where and you can see things escalate, or like I said, somebody who maybe was just going to commit a burglary, but they ended up committing murder because they were cornered. And so this is a very real concern for us. Right? Before we take questions, I know that we have one of the retailers who is with us, Nadine, right? And who maybe we could have Nadine, who's a manager from Walgreens, say a few words, and then, like I said, we'll offer up the questions. Nadine?
Thank you so much, Mayor. So I just wanted to highlight 4 things, really, just to kind of really give a vast aspect as to what we're dealing with within stores. So I'm going to start out with an example that we had just not last night, but on the 1st of March. We had a shoplifter that walked in, 3 of them. 2 they were familiar with, and the other 1 they weren't. So they walked in, the 2 went on to go steal, and the 3rd one went up to the register and just started creating a major fuss. You know, fighting with the shift lead on duty at the time, just kind of things. When she walked in, she literally announced that she was coming in to steal, announced that she was coming in to steal. There's nothing that we can do about it. There's nothing the cops can do about it, because by the time we call the cops and by the time they get here, she'll be long gone. So this is, I just wanted to give that example because this is the extent that they've gotten to now. My second point I wanted to bring from reeling out of that is just think of the impact that it's having on our team members. They're scared, they're overwhelmed. You think about packing up a shelf for our customers to have merchandise to buy, and as soon as you pack the shelf and turn around, there goes all the merchandise. So it's really hard on our team, and it's hard on our customers as well. And I'm going to give one quick other example as far as on the customer aspect of it. I had a day, a shoplifter came in with a black garbage bag, and he wiped out pretty much the entire section of our pediatric section. And there he goes. About the day after, a young lady came in with her young baby on her shoulder for a thing of infant Tylenol. We had none to sell her because everything was wiped out the day prior. I, console her, talk with her, end up going into my stockroom, and thank God I actually found 1 bottle for her, and it was just so. And so these are the things that it is so overwhelming on our team, and it's such an impact. It's not getting any lighter. It's getting more and more frequent. They're getting more and more bold. And it is just, I'm glad that we are having this, that, we are starting to really talk about this, the effect that it's having on our stores, on our team members, on the community, and, just really starting to really talk about the things that we can do on our end, to really combat this. As the Commissioner mentioned, the things about having extra police patrolling different retail, great idea, because at least now they're there on hand. If we make a phone call, they're there to come in. So those are things that are going to help with us working with the police force, and I just want to give kudos to them, major kudos to them, because what they do is not easy, and it's getting more and more difficult. It's not easy, the laws that we have to deal with, and the things that they have to do on their end. So every time they come in, I have to give them kudos. I have to say thank you, and I have to tell them be safe, because what they do cannot be easy. And from my aspect within the store, my job is just to remind my team members, and I know it's hard, and we're all human. We go through emotions when you see that product that you just stack on the shelf walking through the door. It's not easy, but my job is just to really keep them engaged, keep them just knowing that, hey, you know what, we can restock the shelf, and just remind them that our safety is absolute number 1. Do not engage with these shoplifters, because at the end of the day, there is not a single item in our stores on our shelf that's worth any of our team members' lives. So I just have to constantly keep reminding them, hey, you know what, the product will come back in, we will pack it back on the shelf and get ready for that next customer to be able to buy. But, just really keep the spirit up and do not engage with these shoplifters. That's what we have these great men in blue for. That's what they're trained to do. And, thank you so much, guys, because you guys are doing a marvelous job. All right? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nadine. One thing to remember, Nadine, is your phone? One thing to remember is that, we all, talk about retail. Yonkers, New York, is the retail capital of Westchester County. We have more retail square foot than any other community in this county. People shop. We are the center of 20 million people right here in the city of Yonkers, and people come to shop here from all over the metropolitan area. They come here, they like the quality of life that we have, they like the fact that they feel safe, that they can come into our community, and box stores and developers and investors alike like investing in Yonkers because of that. And so we want to make sure that we continue to keep that going in our community. With that, I'll just offer up to questions if anybody might have.
Yes. Commissioner Sapienza, I wanted to ask, it sounds like it's an all-hands-on deck approach. approached, got a lot going on, but we just heard from the dean how helpless these managers of these stores can feel. So what are you guys doing? I know we're one mouthpiece, but what are you guys doing to make that connection and get the word out to give police a call?
Again, you have to look at, the question was, what are we doing to deal with some of these challenges that the stores are having in reporting and confronting suspects? And we try to urge the store, and what we try to tell people is this affects everyone. It affects the community, it affects the stores. Like the mayor mentioned, we don't want a store to have to close because they're not profitable. So what we try to do is offer solutions, work with us, tell us what's going on, tell us, report the crimes to us, let us deal with the crimes, and help us successfully prosecute the crimes. And in doing so, it works out for everybody. It's very easy to just give up on this. It's very easy to say, just let them take what they're going to take. But it has too much of an impact to do that. You can't let crimes like this get out of control. And we're trying to do something proactive now to put a stop to it.
If you don't mind me saying, because I think there's no way to sugarcoat this. We have had retailers basically turn a blind eye to some of the crimes that are happening. And we've asked them not to. We haven't asked them to go do their job. We just said, but when our officers are in a parking lot and they see someone walk out with 2 duffel bags, right, filled with product, which, by the way, happened, and they make a call to that particular store and they go, well, you know what, it didn't go over $1,000, so we're not going to prosecute. No. That's exactly what we don't want. That's exactly what we don't want. And now we're starting to see a change in attitude because we have been talking with the retailers a lot and letting them know that, there are resources here, they're available, and we want to be able to be a part of the solution, but we need you to be a part of that, and it starts with, telling us. Listen, I know from, just from having auto insurance and house insurance, you can't report this stuff too much to the insurance company before the insurance company raises your rates so much that it becomes not profitable to be here. That's what we're trying to avoid.
Mayor, I have a question. Most people in Yonkers see this not as a problem with the law enforcement, but the problem with the system. These people are arrested, and the very next day they are out on the street and probably coming back to the very same store. Is this a problem with the bail reform, or it's something else? Is there a connection?
There's a lot that can be said about the bail reform laws. I know that I'll leave it like this because I don't control those laws. Albany does. Governor Hochul has a very thoughtful proposal in the state legislature now that would provide for greater discretion to our judges. I'm being told on one hand that the judges have the discretion. I'm being told, but I'm also seeing that the governor has a proposal that would grant greater, thought and action from our court system. That is something worthy to look at because, again, when we have somebody who can, rob a car, go out the next day, rob a car, go out the next day, rob a car, and do it many, many different times. It's just simply something that has to be addressed. And so, like I said, I'll leave it to the governor right now, who's negotiating with the legislature, and hopefully this is something to look at. But again, as a mayor and as a council and a police department, we don't control those laws, but we have resources at our disposal to serve and protect the people of this community at all levels, and we're employing them.
With the uptick in shoplifting, Commissioner, you mentioned the 62 arrests. Are you seeing repeat offenders? What do you say on the street?
We are. It's very difficult. Well, we could tell that who is a repeat offender. What we can't tell is basically to track whether or not they stayed in jail, whether or not what their disposition is on the various crimes that they've committed. I could tell you that we know it to be true. We know there's a lot of recidivism involved, and we've taken some numbers. For instance, our top 5 shoplifter offenders, and we found our top shoplifter was arrested 3 times within the past 3 weeks for 3 different felonies and is still out of jail. So something like that is a problem.
I'm guessing it's no coincidence we're standing in front of a Marshals.
No, we want to support all of our stores. Certainly, Marshals is not immune from these crimes. We're trying to help all our retailers, and we want to show that this partnership we have with the retailers. It's very important to us that we work together with the community to end the problem.
You know, and the other thing too, I mean, you think about it, you go to different stores, and unfortunately this is the way it is all across our country. You know, everything's under lock and key now. I mean, it's what do you do with that? And so the experience is such that people may decide that when they walk into a place and it doesn't look friendly, it doesn't look safe, it doesn't look secure, that they'll go home and go online. So how's that help us? I don't see that helping us at all.
No, Mayor, Yonkers, shoplifting does not just affect this area. Gary Square, downtown Yonkers are hardly affected by it.
Absolutely.
What are we doing for those areas?
The same exact thing we're doing here. I mean, we just have, listen, we could have picked any number of retail establishments to stand in front of. We had to pick Marshals today, but we could have been standing in front of the dollar store on Main Street in Getty Square. We could have been standing anywhere in our city. What's happening has been universal, and it's been across the board, every section of this city. And again, and what that does is it puts strain on our police department, right? So, you know, and we don't get any extra aid for AIM to help us with that, but we have to make our police officers more available to do the job that they're currently doing. It's hard enough to do what they have to do on a daily basis, and to deal with this, and at the same time, be proactive. You know, one of the things that I'm very lucky as a mayor to have is a proactive police department. They are active and proactive in their approach to policing, and that has allowed our community to be safe. But it can't be like that for long if we don't stem this issue.
I guess the follow-up is, do we have enough resources within the police department to be having 4 or 5 police officers sitting here while there is crime going on in Yonkers?
We have a tremendous amount of law enforcement. That's what keeps our numbers down, and the taxpayers of our city have invested a lot in law enforcement in Yonkers, and we'll continue to extend the resources where we need. Today is an important, almost public service announcement. People need to see this, and people need to know that their police department is working on their behalf, and that we're going to make the necessary changes. And at the same time, we employ people to don't to ever take matters into their own hands, but you know what? Report it. You can call 911 if it's an emergency. You can call the Yonkers Police Department. You can text us because we have a text service, and you can call. Or you can email us. And so there's many different ways to report things. That's has been successful for us in the past, and we need to do that in the future.
All right, thank you, everyone.